Good evening. Welcome to tonight's forum on gun controls, facts and myths. Gun controls are not the solution to today's violence and crime. In today's society, few issues strike a passionate opinion among Americans than the topic of gun control. Too often, the news is filled today about innocent victims being hurt or killed in violent crimes in America. And many now believe that tighter gun control laws is the solution to these violent crimes in America. With a steady rise in violent crimes since the 1960s and tighter gun controls today, why haven't we seen a reduction in the violent crimes in America? Too many children and adults are victims of violent crimes in America today. The Newtown, Connecticut Sandy Hook Elementary School massacre only brought back to life what we all fear in this country, and about how one individual can carry out such a crime and such a violent act against innocent people. There are no law-abiding citizens in this country, including gun owners, that do not wish to see the violence in this country reduced. Is the solution really to strengthen laws concerning who can obtain a gun, lengthening prison sentences, the solution to why we have a rise in violent crimes in this country today? I am a retired veteran of the United States Army. I have seen firsthand what a gun can do to another human. So many of my brothers and sisters that served this country throughout all the campaigns and wars now have trouble dealing, after they've left the front lines, with the stress of what they had to do. To be able to shoot another human, even in an act of defense, your mind has to have that capacity to do so. Most humans do not hold that. I was raised at a time in this country when there were no gun laws like we have today. There were no waiting periods, no background checks, and yet the number of violent crimes committed per capita in this country was well below what it is today. If gun controls are the solution to gun violence, then why have we not seen a greater level of violence reduction in violence in this country with the tighter laws? Violence in America has risen more than 38% in all types of violent crimes since 1960. 4 of the top 7 cities in America today that have the tightest gun control laws throughout this country. We're talking about 4 cities that have tighter gun control laws than what the national gun control laws currently are. And 4 of those top 7 cities are in the top 10 in this country in the number of violent crimes committed. Chicago has the tightest gun control laws, and yet they lead the nation in violent crimes each year. If a city that has already imposed tougher gun laws have higher rate of gun violence than cities that have not implemented such laws, what does that tell you? That's from the United States crime rates, 1960 through 2011. If a gun is used in a violent crime, was it really the gun that caused this action? I'm telling you that a shovel can dig a hole. But if we made it harder to obtain a shovel and somebody really wanted to dig a hole, would they not find another way to do it? You only have to look to earlier this week in Boston, Massachusetts, where 2 young men carried out such a hideous act of violence against innocent people standing along the street. At that point, guns weren't used. They created a bomb, planted it, and detonated it against innocent people. People who commit violent crimes have the mental capacity to do so. Most humans do not have that capacity. Following the removal in our schools in 1962 by the Supreme Court, the ability to pray and teach morality and what is right and wrong in our schools by our Supreme Court, along with an understanding that from a book published in 1946 by Dr. Benjamin Spock that suggested that corporal punishment of our children would only lead to violence. Violent crimes started to rise. No law-abiding citizen in this country doesn't want violent crimes to see them reduced. Guns are simply a tool that has been used in many crimes since 1960 through 2010, but they weren't the only thing. There has been a 38% rise in violent crimes in this country since 1960. This includes forcible rape, murder, burglary, assault, and battery. Many of these crimes never had a gun. By comparison, in 2011, 9,878 people were killed in DUI drunk driving accidents. Only 8,583 people were killed by gun violence. If we're going to put tighter controls on who should own a gun to reduce gun violence, should we not put tighter controls on who owns a car? The country has been trained to accept violence as a part of its everyday life. Our news media, now, if it bleeds, it leads, with stories of violence every day. Our children sit in front of game consoles that parents have chosen to use to allow them to grow up with rather than keeping their responsibilities as a parent. When the highest volume selling games in this country for such game consoles are games that include violence, to where the operator gets rewarded for the more carnage and killing that they do within the game. You tie this in with a lack of morality in our households, in our schools, and the fact that we no longer discipline our children. Yeah, I was spanked as a kid growing up, and it taught me that when I disobeyed the rules, disobeyed the laws, that there would be punishment placed upon me that I would feel, and it would hurt, but it did not raise me to be a violent person. What was once unthinkable is now in our daily lives. From the stabbing of 14 college kids in Houston, Texas, just a couple of weeks ago, when the accuser was heard to say, "I had dreamed since childhood about stabbing others with a knife." When did our children start dreaming about committing violence? We do need a solution to this problem, not a solution to an object. Law-abiding citizens do not need to be protected from guns. They need to be protected from the type of individuals who believes that acts of violence against another human are now acceptable. And gun control laws will not do that. Do not support tighter gun control laws. Support a solution that will actually make it safe once again in our homes, schools, and churches. This is a country that was founded for the people and by the people. It's time that we take our country back. Thank you for your time.